The rain hammered against the glass walls of Cross Industries like angry fists, each drop racing down the windows as if trying to escape the gray December sky. Inside the towering building, security guards were about to remove a small, shivering figure from the marble lobby when she did something that would change 3 lives forever. "Please." The little girl's voice cracked with desperation as she broke free from the guard's gentle grip. "I need to see the man who owns this building. My mommy is dying." Emma Williams, barely 8 years old, stood in the middle of the pristine lobby with tears streaming down her dark cheeks. Her worn coat was too big for her tiny frame, and her shoes had holes that let in the cold. But her eyes burned with determination that seemed too fierce for someone so young. "Sweetie, you can't just walk into someone's office," the security guard said kindly, but Emma wasn't listening. She had spotted the elevator opening on the top floor through the glass doors, and she knew her chance was slipping away. "Please," she screamed at the top of her lungs, her voice echoing through the entire building. "My mommy needs help. She's all I have left." The elevator doors opened on the ground floor, and out stepped Nathan Cross himself. He was tall, dressed in a perfect black suit, with sharp features and eyes that seemed to see right through people. At 32, he had built an empire, but his heart had turned to ice along the way. "What is this noise?" he asked his assistant, who was hurrying to catch up with him. "Sir, it's just a child. Security is handling it," the assistant replied, but Nathan's eyes had already found Emma. She was staring at him with such raw hope that it made his chest feel tight. Her small hands were pressed together in prayer, and her whole body was shaking. "Are you the boss?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper now. Nathan should have walked away. He should have let security handle it. He should have gotten in his car and driven to his next meeting. But something about this little girl with the fierce eyes and broken voice made him stop. "Yes," he said simply. Emma took a shaky breath and did something that would haunt Nathan's dreams for weeks to come. She fell to her knees right there on the cold marble floor. "Sir, please marry my mommy," she whispered, tears falling freely now. "She's all I've got left, and she's dying inside every day. She tries to hide it, but I hear her crying at night. We lost our house, our car, everything. She works 3 jobs but it's not enough. She's so tired and sad all the time." The entire lobby had gone silent. Even the security guards had stopped moving. Nathan felt like the air had been sucked out of his lungs. "Please," Emma continued, her small voice breaking. "She used to smile all the time before Daddy died. She used to sing to me and make funny faces. Now she just stares at the wall and whispers that she's sorry she can't give me a better life. But she's the best mommy in the whole world, and she deserves someone who will take care of her the way Daddy did." Nathan's assistant stepped forward. "Sir, we really should call social services." "No." Emma jumped up, panic in her eyes. "They'll take me away from her. She's not a bad mom, she's just sad and tired. Please, mister. I've been watching you for 3 days. I know you're rich and important. I know you could save her if you wanted to. You've been watching me?" Nathan asked, his voice colder than he intended. Emma nodded, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "I walk by your building every day on my way to school. I see you get out of your fancy car, and you look sad too. Maybe you and my mommy could be sad together and then maybe you wouldn't be sad anymore." Nathan felt something crack inside his chest. He looked at this little girl who had somehow seen through his carefully built walls, and he didn't know whether to be angry or amazed. "Where is your mother now?" he asked. "She's at work at the diner on 5th Street. She doesn't know I'm here. She would be so mad if she knew I was bothering you." Emma's voice got smaller. "But I had to try. She's all I have left in the whole world, and I can't watch her disappear like Daddy did." Nathan's assistant was making frantic gestures about his schedule, but Nathan ignored him. He crouched down to Emma's level, his expensive suit creasing against the marble floor. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Emma Williams. My mommy's name is Lydia. She's 28 and she's the prettiest lady in the whole world, even when she's sad." Nathan looked into Emma's eyes and saw something he hadn't seen in years: pure, desperate love. This little girl would do anything to save her mother, even humiliate herself in front of strangers. "Emma," he said carefully, "marriage isn't something you can just ask for like that." "But you're rich," Emma said, confusion in her voice. "Rich people can do anything they want, right? You could save her. You could make her smile again." Nathan stood up slowly, his mind racing. He should walk away. He should let the system handle this. He should protect himself the way he always did. But as he looked at Emma's hopeful face, he heard himself saying words that would change everything. "Where did you say your mother works?" Lydia Williams moved through the morning rush at Murphy's Diner like a ghost dancing through memories. Her dark hands, once soft and cared for, now bore the marks of 3 jobs: burns from the diner's grill, cuts from the cleaning supplies at the office building she scrubbed at night, and calluses from the factory work she did on weekends. At 28, she should have been in the prime of her life. Instead, she felt ancient, worn down by months of struggle that had started the day her husband James died in a car accident, leaving behind medical bills that swallowed their savings, insurance that barely covered the funeral, and a mountain of debt that seemed to grow bigger every day. "Order up," shouted Murphy, the diner's owner, sliding 2 plates across the pass. "Table 6 is getting impatient." Lydia grabbed the plates, forcing a smile she didn't feel. Table 6 was occupied by a businessman who looked at her with the kind of pity that made her skin crawl. She knew what people saw when they looked at her: a woman who had fallen from grace, a cautionary tale about what happened when life decided to crush you. "Here you go, sir," she said, setting down his eggs and toast. "Can I get you anything else?" The man shook his head, but his eyes lingered on her face. "You okay, honey? You look tired." Lydia's smile tightened. She was tired. Bone deep, soul-crushing tired. But she couldn't afford to show it, not here, not anywhere. "I'm fine, thank you," she said, already moving to the next table. But she wasn't fine. She hadn't been fine since the morning she had to tell Emma that they were losing their house. She hadn't been fine since the night she counted their money and realized they couldn't afford both rent and food. She hadn't been fine since she started working jobs that left her hands raw and her heart empty. The worst part wasn't the physical exhaustion or even the constant worry about money. The worst part was watching Emma try to take care of her. Her 8-year-old daughter had stopped asking for things, stopped talking about her friends at school, stopped being a child because she was too busy trying to be strong for her mother. Last night, Lydia had found Emma in the kitchen at 2 a.m., trying to make her a sandwich for work. "Mommy, you forgot to eat dinner again," Emma had said, her small hand struggling with the bread. "I want to make sure you're not hungry." Lydia had cried herself to sleep after that, muffling her sobs in her pillow so Emma wouldn't hear. "Lydia." Murphy's voice cut through her thoughts. "You've got a customer asking for you." She looked up, confused. Nobody ever asked for her specifically. She was just another waitress in a city full of them. But there, sitting in the corner booth, was a little girl with pigtails and a school uniform that Lydia recognized immediately. "Emma?" Lydia's heart stopped. "What are you doing here? You should be in school." Emma looked up at her mother with wide, guilty eyes. I had to come see you." Lydia slid into the booth across from her daughter, her mind racing. Emma never skipped school. She was the kind of child who followed rules and did her homework without being asked. "Baby, what's wrong? Are you sick?" Emma shook her head, but she wouldn't meet her mother's eyes. "I just wanted to see you. I miss you." Lydia's heart shattered. She had been working so much that she barely saw Emma anymore. She left before Emma woke up and came home after Emma was asleep. Their conversations happened in rushed moments between Lydia's jobs, stolen minutes that never felt like enough. "I miss you too, baby," she whispered, reaching across the table to take Emma's hand. "But I have to work. You know that, right? I'm doing this for us." Emma nodded, but tears were starting to form in her eyes. "I know, Mommy. I know you're working hard. I wish things were different." Lydia wished things were different too. She wished James was still alive, wished they still had their little house with the yellow kitchen and the garden where Emma used to play. She wished she could give her daughter the childhood she deserved instead of this constant struggle. "Emma, you have to go back to school," she said gently. "I'll get in trouble if you're not there." "But Mommy, no buts. I'll walk you back myself." Emma's eyes filled with panic. "You can't. You'll be late for work." "My daughter is more important than work," Lydia said firmly, though her heart ached knowing Murphy would dock her pay for leaving early. As they walked back to Emma's school, Lydia noticed her daughter kept looking over her shoulder, as if she was afraid someone was following them. "Emma, what's going on? You're acting strange." Emma bit her lip, a habit she'd picked up since James died. "Nothing, Mommy. I love you. I love you too, baby. More than anything in this world." After dropping Emma off at school, Lydia walked back to the diner slowly, dreading the lecture she knew Murphy would give her. She was already behind on rent, already struggling to keep up with the bills. She couldn't afford to lose this job. But as she pushed through the diner's door, she found Murphy waiting for her with a strange expression on his face. "Lydia, there's a man here to see you," he said. "Says it's about your daughter." Lydia's blood ran cold. Had something happened to Emma? Had someone hurt her? She turned toward the corner booth where Murphy was pointing, and her breath caught in her throat. Sitting there was the most intimidating man she had ever seen. He was tall, wearing a suit that probably cost more than she made in a month, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. "Mrs. Williams," he said, standing as she approached. "My name is Nathan Cross. I believe we need to talk." Lydia's legs felt weak. She had heard of Nathan Cross, everyone in the city had. He was the billionaire who owned half the buildings downtown, the man who appeared on magazine covers and business news shows. "I don't understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What does this have to do with Emma?" Nathan's expression was unreadable. "Your daughter paid me a visit this morning. She made quite an impression." Lydia's world tilted. Emma had been acting strange, looking over her shoulder, and now this man was here talking about her daughter making an impression. What did she do? Lydia asked, panic rising in her chest. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. Then he said something that made Lydia's knees buckle. "She asked me to marry you." The coffee cup in Lydia's hands shook so badly that the liquid sloshed over the rim, burning her fingers. She barely noticed the pain. Her mind was stuck on the impossible words Nathan Cross had just spoken. "She asked you to what?" Lydia whispered, her voice cracking. Nathan sat across from her in the diner booth, looking completely out of place among the cracked vinyl seats and faded formica tables. His expensive suit made him look like he had stepped out of a magazine and into the wrong life. "Your daughter is very persuasive," he said, his voice giving nothing away. "She told me quite a story about your situation." Lydia's face burned with humiliation. Emma had exposed their desperate circumstances to a complete stranger, and not just any stranger, but one of the most powerful men in the city. "I'm so sorry," she said, staring down at her hands. "Emma is just a child. She doesn't understand how the world works. I'll talk to her, make sure she never bothers you again." "She's not bothering me," Nathan said, surprising her. "In fact, she's one of the few people who's spoken honestly to me in years." Lydia looked up at him, confused. What do you mean? Nathan leaned back in the booth, his dark eyes studying her face. When was the last time someone asked you for help without wanting something in return? I don't understand. Your daughter didn't ask me for money. She didn't ask me to hire you or give you a handout. She asked me to marry you because she thought it might make you happy. Lydia's eyes filled with tears. She's just a little girl. She's confused and scared and she's worried about you, Nathan interrupted. She told me you cry at night when you think she's sleeping. The words hit Lydia like a physical blow. She had tried so hard to keep her pain hidden from Emma, but children saw everything. I never wanted her to see me like this, she whispered. I never wanted her to worry about grown-up problems. But she does worry. She worries enough to approach a complete stranger and beg him to save her mother. Lydia wiped her eyes with her sleeve, trying to pull herself together. Mr. Cross, I appreciate you coming here to tell me about this, but I don't know what you expect me to do. I can't control what Emma does every minute of the day. I'm working 3 jobs just to keep us afloat. Nathan was quiet for a moment, his fingers drumming against the table. Tell me about your husband. The question caught Lydia off guard. Why? Because Emma mentioned him. She said you were different before he died. Lydia's throat tightened. Talking about James always felt like tearing open a wound that had never properly healed. He was everything to me, she said softly. He was kind and funny and he made me feel like I could do anything. When he died, it felt like the world stopped making sense. How long ago? 8 months. The words came out as a whisper. He was coming home from work when a drunk driver ran a red light. He died instantly. Nathan's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry for your loss. The insurance barely covered the funeral, Lydia continued, the words pouring out of her now. And the medical bills from the ambulance, the hospital, even though he was already gone, they still charged us thousands of dollars. We had to sell everything, our house, our car, James's tools. But it wasn't enough. The debt just kept growing. And now you're working 3 jobs to try to pay it off. Lydia nodded, feeling ashamed. I know how it looks. I know people think I'm a failure, that I should be able to handle this better. But I can't. I can barely keep my head above water, and Emma sees everything. She sees me falling apart, and she's trying to fix it because she's just a child and she doesn't know that some things can't be fixed. Nathan was quiet for a long time, his dark eyes never leaving her face. Finally, he spoke. I'd like to offer you a job. Lydia blinked, certain she had misheard. What? A job? At my company. The pay would be enough to cover your debts and give you a stable income. I don't understand. What kind of job? I don't have any special skills. I'm just a waitress and a cleaning lady, and you're a woman who's been knocked down and keeps getting back up, Nathan said. You're a mother who's sacrificing everything for her child. Those are skills, Mrs. Williams. More valuable than most people realize. Lydia stared at him, her mind racing. Why would you do this? You don't even know me. Because your daughter asked me to, he said simply. And because I've never met a child with that much courage. I can't accept charity, Lydia said, her pride flaring. I won't be anyone's pity project. Nathan's eyes flashed with something that might have been anger. This isn't charity. I'm offering you a job because I think you'd be good at it. If you want to turn it down because you're too proud to accept help, that's your choice. But consider what it means for Emma. The words hit home. Lydia thought about Emma trying to make her sandwiches at 2 a.m., about the worry in her daughter's eyes, about the way Emma had stopped asking for things because she knew her mother couldn't provide them. What kind of job? She asked quietly. Personal assistant. You'd help manage my schedule, handle correspondence, coordinate meetings. The hours would be reasonable 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. No nights, no weekends unless absolutely necessary. Lydia's heart raced. A normal job with normal hours. The chance to see Emma every evening and weekend. I don't have any experience with that kind of work, she said. But you have experience managing chaos, Nathan replied. You've been juggling 3 jobs while raising a child and dealing with debt. Trust me, managing my schedule will be easier than what you're doing now. Lydia looked at him suspiciously. What's the catch? Nathan was quiet for a moment, and she saw something flicker across his face: uncertainty, maybe even vulnerability. The catch is that I'm not an easy person to work for, he said finally. I don't do small talk. I don't tolerate mistakes. I don't have patience for people who can't keep up. Then why offer me this job? Nathan met her eyes, and for a moment, she saw something raw and honest in his expression. Because your daughter reminded me of something I'd forgotten, he said. Sometimes the people who need help the most are the ones who deserve it the most. Lydia felt tears threatening again. Mr. Cross, think about it, he said, standing up from the booth. You don't have to decide right now. But if you're interested, come to my office tomorrow at 9 a.m. We'll discuss the details. He pulled out a business card and set it on the table. And Mrs. Williams? Bring Emma with you. She should see what her courage accomplished. As Nathan walked away, Lydia stared at the business card in her hands. Nathan Cross, CEO, Cross Industries. An address in the most expensive part of downtown. She thought about Emma, about the hope in her daughter's eyes when she asked for things to be different. Maybe they could be different. Maybe this was the chance she had been praying for. But as she watched Nathan's expensive car pull away from the diner, one question burned in her mind: what did a man like Nathan Cross really want from a woman like her? The elevator to the 50th floor of Cross Industries felt like a rocket ship carrying Lydia into another world. Emma stood beside her, wearing her best dress, a simple blue outfit that Lydia had bought for school pictures months ago. Emma's eyes were wide with wonder as she watched the city shrink below them through the glass walls. Mommy, is this really happening? Emma whispered. Lydia squeezed her daughter's hand. I think so, baby. I think so. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, revealing an office that looked more like a palace than a workplace. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the entire city spread out below them. The furniture was sleek and modern, all glass and chrome and leather. A receptionist with perfect makeup and a crisp white blouse looked up from her desk. Mrs. Williams. Mr. Cross is waiting for you in his office. Lydia's palms were sweating as they followed the receptionist down a hallway lined with expensive artwork. She had barely slept the night before, wondering if she was making a terrible mistake. What if this was some kind of trap? What if Nathan Cross was the kind of man who took advantage of desperate women? But then she remembered Emma's face when she had told her about the job offer. For the first time in months, her daughter had looked truly hopeful. Right through here, the receptionist said, opening a door that was twice as tall as any door had a right to be. Nathan Cross's office was bigger than their entire apartment. One wall was covered with awards and certificates, another with photographs of Nathan shaking hands with politicians and celebrities. But what caught Lydia's attention was the man himself. He was standing by the windows, looking out at the city, and he seemed smaller somehow than he had in the diner. More human. When he turned to face them, Lydia saw something in his eyes that she hadn't noticed before: loneliness. Mrs. Williams, he said, his voice formal but not unkind. Emma. Emma stepped forward, her chin raised with the same courage that had brought her here in the first place. Mr. Cross, she said politely. Thank you for helping my mommy. Nathan's expression softened slightly. I haven't helped anyone yet. That depends on whether your mother decides to take the job. She will, Emma said with absolute confidence. My mommy is brave and smart and she's good at everything. Lydia felt her cheeks burn. Emma, let Mr. Cross and I talk about this. Actually, Nathan said, I'd like Emma to hear this conversation. She's the one who started it, after all. He gestured to a sitting area with leather chairs arranged around a glass coffee table. As they sat down, Lydia noticed that Nathan seemed uncomfortable, as if he wasn't used to having personal conversations in his office. Let me be clear about what this job involves, he began, his voice businesslike. You would be my personal assistant, which means you would handle my schedule, my correspondence, and my phone calls. You would accompany me to meetings and take notes. You would manage my travel arrangements and coordinate with my staff. Lydia nodded, trying to hide her nervousness. That sounds complicated. It is complicated. I'm not an easy person to work for. I have very high standards, and I don't tolerate mistakes. Emma frowned. Are you mean to people? Nathan looked surprised by the question. I'm not mean. I'm just focused. That's what my teacher says about me when I'm concentrating really hard, Emma said. But sometimes people think I'm being rude when I'm just thinking. Something flickered across Nathan's face, surprise, maybe even amusement. That's exactly right, he said, looking at Emma with new interest. Sometimes people mistake focus for rudeness. So you're not really mean, Emma said, as if she had solved a puzzle. You're just lonely. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Lydia held her breath, waiting for Nathan to get angry or throw them out of his office. Instead, he was quiet for a long moment, studying Emma's face. What makes you think I'm lonely? He asked finally. Because you look the same way my mommy looks sometimes, Emma said simply. Sad and tired and like you're missing something important. Nathan's jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. The job pays $60,000 a year, he said, turning back to Lydia. Health insurance is included, and there's a retirement plan. You would start immediately. Lydia's head spun. $60,000 was more than she made at all three of her jobs combined. That's very generous, she managed. It's fair compensation for the work, Nathan said. Nothing more, nothing less. But why me? Lydia asked. You could hire someone with experience, someone who knows about business, and I don't want someone who knows about business, Nathan interrupted. I want someone who knows about loyalty. Someone who understands what it means to protect the people you care about. Emma clapped her hands together. That's my mommy. She protects me from everything. Nathan's expression grew thoughtful. I imagine she does. Mr. Cross, Lydia said carefully, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Go ahead. What do you really want from me? Because men like you don't just offer jobs to women like me without expecting something in return. Nathan's eyes flashed with something that might have been anger. What kind of man do you think I am? I think you're the kind of man who's used to getting what he wants, Lydia said, meeting his gaze steadily. And I need to know what you want from me, because I won't compromise my daughter's safety or my own dignity, no matter how desperate I am. Nathan stood up abruptly, walking back to the windows. For a moment, Lydia thought she had offended him beyond repair. You're right, he said finally, his voice quiet. I am used to getting what I want. But what I want from you is something I can't buy or demand or manipulate into existence. What's that? He turned back to face her, and she saw something vulnerable in his expression. I want to remember what it feels like to do something good, he said. I want to help you and Emma because it's the right thing to do, not because I expect anything in return. I want to be the kind of man your daughter thinks I am. Emma jumped up from her chair and walked over to Nathan. Without hesitation, she took his hand in her small one. You are that kind of man, she said seriously. You just forgot for a while. My daddy used to say that sometimes good people forget they're good, but it doesn't mean they stop being good. Nathan looked down at Emma's hand in his, and Lydia saw his carefully controlled expression crack for just a moment. "Your daddy sounds like he was a wise man," he said softly. "He was," Emma said. "And he would have liked you. He would have said you have good eyes, even when you're trying to look scary." Nathan actually smiled at that, a real smile, not the polite one he had been wearing. "So," he said, looking back at Lydia, "do you want the job?" Lydia looked at her daughter, who was still holding Nathan's hand with complete trust. She thought about the bills piling up on their kitchen table, about the nights she had lain awake wondering how she was going to make ends meet, about the way Emma had stopped asking for things because she knew her mother couldn't provide them. "Yes," she said. "I want the job." "Good," Nathan said, the formal mask slipping back into place. "You start Monday. My current assistant will train you for the first week." "Mr. Cross," Emma said, tugging on his hand. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you going to fall in love with my mommy?" Both Nathan and Lydia froze. Lydia's face burned with embarrassment. "Emma," she said sharply. "You can't ask people things like that." But Nathan was looking at Emma with a strange expression, as if she had asked him something he had been wondering about himself. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I haven't thought about love in a very long time." "You should think about it," Emma said seriously. "My mommy is the best person in the whole world. If you got to know her, you'd probably love her too." Nathan's eyes found Lydia's across the room, and for a moment, she saw something there that made her heart skip. "Maybe I should," he said quietly. 3 weeks into her new job, Lydia was beginning to understand that Nathan Cross was a puzzle wrapped in an enigma disguised as a cold businessman. He was demanding, yes, and he had impossibly high standards. But he was also fair, and he never asked her to do anything he wouldn't do himself. More importantly, he was nothing like the heartless billionaire she had expected. "Mrs. Williams," Nathan said, looking up from his computer screen, "I need you to reschedule my lunch meeting with the Patterson Group. Something's come up." Lydia checked her calendar. "That's going to be difficult. They've been trying to get this meeting for months." "I know. But Emma's school just called. Apparently, she's in the nurse's office with a fever." Lydia's heart skipped. "Emma's sick." "I have to go, that's why I'm rescheduling the meeting," Nathan said, already reaching for his jacket. "I'll drive you to the school." "Mr. Cross, you don't have to, Nathan," he corrected. "And yes, I do have to. Emma is more important than any business meeting." During the drive to Emma's school, Lydia found herself studying Nathan's profile. Over the past few weeks, she had begun to see past his carefully constructed walls. He was kind to the office staff, he never lost his temper even when things went wrong, and he had a habit of working late into the night as if he was afraid to go home to an empty apartment. "Can I ask you something?" she said as they pulled into the school parking lot. "Of course. Why aren't you married? I mean, you're successful, you're—" She paused, feeling her cheeks heat up. "I'm what?" Nathan asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. "Nothing. Never mind." "You were going to say handsome," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice even though she wasn't looking at him. "I was going to say you're a good man," Lydia said. "Any woman would be lucky to have you." Nathan's smile faded. "Not any woman. The ones who matter tend to leave." Before Lydia could ask what he meant, they had reached the school. Emma was waiting in the nurse's office, looking pale but perking up when she saw them. "Mommy. Mr. Nathan," she said, using the nickname she had given him. "I don't feel good." Nathan surprised Lydia by crouching down to Emma's level and gently pressing his hand to her forehead. "You're burning up, sweetheart," he said softly. "Let's get you home." "I don't want to go home," Emma said, leaning against Nathan's shoulder. "Our apartment is cold and the neighbors are loud." Nathan looked at Lydia over Emma's head. "Would you like to come to my house instead?" I have a guest room, and it's quiet. Lydia hesitated. Going to Nathan's house felt like crossing a line she wasn't sure she was ready to cross. Please, Mommy? Emma asked. I just want to sleep somewhere peaceful. Looking at her daughter's pale, tired face, Lydia couldn't say no. Nathan's house was nothing like what Lydia had expected. Instead of a cold, modern mansion, it was a cozy Victorian home with warmth and character. The living room had a fireplace, comfortable furniture, and bookshelves that reached the ceiling. This is beautiful, Lydia said, looking around in wonder. It was my grandmother's house, Nathan said, carrying Emma toward the stairs. I bought it back when the family had to sell it. I couldn't bear to see it go to strangers. He settled Emma in the guest room, which had soft yellow walls and a window that looked out over a garden. Emma was asleep almost before her head hit the pillow. She'll be more comfortable here, Nathan said quietly, pulling a blanket up to Emma's chin. Lydia watched him tuck her daughter in with such gentle care, and something shifted in her chest. This wasn't the cold businessman from the office. This was a man who understood what it meant to love someone enough to put their needs first. Thank you, she whispered. You didn't have to do this. Yes, I did, Nathan said, leading her back downstairs. Emma is important to me. They settled in the living room, and Nathan made them both tea. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows, making everything feel warm and peaceful. Can I ask you about what you said earlier? Lydia said. About women leaving? Nathan was quiet for a long moment, staring into his teacup. I was engaged once. 3 years ago. Her name was Victoria. What happened? She said I was too cold, too focused on work. She said I didn't know how to love someone properly. Nathan's voice was matter of fact, but Lydia could hear the pain underneath. She was probably right. I don't think she was, Lydia said softly. I've watched you with Emma. You know exactly how to love someone. Nathan looked up at her, surprise in his dark eyes. Emma is easy to love. She's honest and brave and she sees good in everyone. Even in you. Especially in me. Sometimes I think she sees things that aren't really there. Lydia set down her teacup and turned to face him fully. Nathan, can I tell you what I see when I look at you? He nodded, though he looked uncomfortable with the attention. I see a man who rescheduled an important meeting because a little girl had a fever. I see someone who brought us to his home because he wanted Emma to be comfortable. I see a person who's built walls to protect himself, but who's brave enough to let them down when it matters. Nathan's jaw tightened. You barely know me. I know you better than you think. I've seen how you treat people when you think no one is watching. I've seen you stay late to make sure projects are done right. I've seen you remember the names of every person who works for you, down to the janitors. That's just good business. No, Lydia said firmly. That's being a good person. Victoria was wrong about you, Nathan. You're not too cold to love someone properly. You're just scared. Scared of what? Scared of being hurt again. Scared of caring about someone and having them leave. Scared of being vulnerable. Nathan stood up abruptly, walking to the window. Maybe I am scared. Maybe I have good reason to be. Lydia followed him, standing close enough that she could smell his cologne. We all have reasons to be scared. I'm terrified every day that I'm not good enough for Emma, that I'm failing her somehow. I'm scared that she'll grow up and realize her mother is just a mess who can't get her life together. You're not a mess, Nathan said, turning to look at her. You're the strongest person I've ever met. I don't feel strong. Most days I feel like I'm barely holding on. But you do hold on. You keep fighting for Emma, keep working to give her a better life. That's not weakness, Lydia. That's courage. They stood there looking at each other, and Lydia felt something electric pass between them. For a moment, she thought Nathan might kiss her. Instead, he stepped back, the walls sliding back into place. "I should check on Emma," he said. But when they went upstairs, Emma was awake, sitting up in bed with her fever broken and her eyes bright. "I feel better," she announced. "Mr. Nathan, your house made me feel better." "I'm glad," Nathan said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Are you hungry? I could make you some soup." "You cook?" Emma asked, delighted. "A little. Nothing fancy. My daddy used to make the best soup when I was sick," Emma said wistfully. "He said it was magic soup because it was made with love." Nathan's expression grew thoughtful. "Well, then I'll have to make sure I put extra love in this batch." As Nathan went downstairs to start cooking, Emma grabbed Lydia's hand. "Mommy," she whispered, "I think Mr. Nathan likes you." "Emma, and I think you like him too. You smile different when he's around." Lydia felt her cheeks warm. "It's not that simple, baby." "Why not?" "Daddy always said love was the simplest thing in the world. You just have to be brave enough to let it happen." Looking into her daughter's wise eyes, Lydia wondered if Emma was right. Maybe love was simple. Maybe she was just making it complicated because she was afraid. That evening, as they sat around Nathan's kitchen table eating his magic soup, which was surprisingly good, Lydia caught Nathan watching Emma with an expression of pure tenderness. When Emma told him a story about her school friends, he listened with complete attention. When she asked him about his work, he explained it in terms she could understand. "Mr. Nathan," Emma said as he was clearing the dishes, "do you get lonely in this big house all by yourself?" Nathan paused, a plate halfway to the sink. "Sometimes. You should get a family," Emma said matter-of-factly. "Families make houses feel happy." "It's not that easy, sweetheart. You can't just go to a store and buy a family." Emma giggled. "Silly. You don't buy a family. You choose people you love and ask them to be your family. That's what my daddy did with Mommy and me." Nathan looked at Lydia over Emma's head, and she saw something vulnerable and hopeful in his expression. "Is that how it works?" he asked softly. "That's exactly how it works," Emma said. "You just have to ask." Later, as Nathan drove them home, Emma fell asleep in the back seat. The car was quiet except for the soft sound of her breathing. "Thank you for today," Lydia said. Emma was right, your house did make her feel better. "She's welcome there anytime," Nathan said. "Both of you are." "Nathan, I know," he said quietly. "I know it's complicated. I know we work together and you're still grieving your husband and I'm not good at this kind of thing. But Emma is right about something else, I do get lonely in that big house." Lydia's heart pounded. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe it's time I stopped being scared. Maybe it's time I asked someone to be my family." As they pulled up to Lydia's apartment building, Nathan turned to look at her. "Would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow night? Just the two of us." Lydia looked back at Emma, sleeping peacefully in her car seat, and then at Nathan, who was looking at her with hope and fear warring in his dark eyes. "Yes," she said. "I'd like that very much." As Nathan really smiled, not the polite mask he usually wore, Lydia realized that maybe Emma had been right about everything. Maybe love was simple. Maybe all you had to do was be brave enough to let it happen. The restaurant Nathan chose was intimate and elegant, with soft lighting and quiet corners perfect for conversation. Lydia had borrowed a dress from her neighbor, a simple black number that made her feel beautiful for the first time in months. Nathan wore a dark suit that made his eyes look even more intense than usual. "You look lovely," he said as they were seated at a table by the window. "Thank you," Lydia replied, feeling suddenly nervous. This felt different from their working relationship, more personal and dangerous. They ordered their food and made small talk about work, but Lydia could sense Nathan was holding something back. There was a tension in his shoulders, a careful quality to his words that suggested he was wrestling with something important. "Nathan," She said finally, "What's wrong? You've been acting strange all evening." He was quiet for a moment, staring out the window at the city lights. "There are things about me you don't know. Things that might change how you feel about me." "What kind of things?" Nathan took a deep breath, as if steeling himself for something painful. "I told you about Victoria, about how she said I was too cold to love someone properly. But I never told you why she said that." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. If this is going to be something real, you need to know who I really am." Lydia waited, her heart pounding. "I wasn't always wealthy," Nathan began. "I grew up in foster care. My mother was a drug addict who couldn't take care of me. And I never knew my father. I bounced between homes for years, never staying anywhere long enough to form real attachments." Lydia's heart ached for the little boy Nathan must have been. That must have been so hard. It was. But it taught me something important, that caring about people only leads to pain. Every time I started to feel safe somewhere, I'd get moved to a new home. Every time I started to care about someone, they'd disappear from my life. So you learned not to care. I learned to protect myself. I built walls so high that nothing could get through them. And for a long time, that worked. I focused on school, then college, then building my business. I convinced myself that success was enough, that I didn't need anyone else. But then you met Victoria." Nathan nodded. "She was beautiful and sophisticated and everything I thought I wanted. For a while, I convinced myself I loved her. But when she started talking about marriage, about having children, I panicked." "Why?" "Because I realized I didn't know how to be a husband or a father. I didn't know how to love someone without holding part of myself back. I was terrified that if I let myself be completely vulnerable, she'd leave just like everyone else had." "So you pushed her away first." "I became exactly what she accused me of, being cold, distant, focused only on work. I told myself it was better that way, that I was protecting both of us from inevitable disappointment." Lydia reached across the table and took his hand. "Nathan, you were just scared. That doesn't make you a bad person. Doesn't it? Victoria wasn't wrong about me. I am cold. I do put up walls. I've spent so many years protecting myself that I don't know how to do anything else." "That's not what I see when I look at you," Lydia said firmly. "Yes, you have walls. But you let them down for Emma. You let them down for me. Emma is different. She's innocent and trusting and she saw through your walls from the very beginning. Children don't lie about these things, Nathan. If Emma sees goodness in you, it's because it's really there." Nathan squeezed her hand. "What if I'm not capable of being the man you and Emma deserve? What if you are? What if you're just afraid to find out?" They sat in silence for a moment, their hands linked across the table. Finally, Nathan spoke again. "There's something else you should know. About why I really offered you the job." Lydia's stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" "When Emma came to my office that day, when she begged me to marry you, something inside me broke open. I saw this little girl who was willing to sacrifice her pride for someone she loved, and I realized I hadn't felt that kind of fierce protectiveness in years. So you offered me the job to help Emma." "At first, yes. But then I met you, and I realized Emma was right about something else. You were worth protecting too. You were this amazing woman who'd been knocked down by life but refused to stay down. You were fighting for your daughter with everything you had, even when it seemed hopeless. And that's when you started to care about us. That's when I started to remember what it felt like to care about anything other than work and money. You and Emma brought something into my life that I didn't even realize I was missing." "What's that?" "Purpose. Before you, I was just existing. Going through the motions of a successful life without actually living it. But watching you fight for Emma, seeing the love between you two, it made me want to be part of something bigger than myself. Lydia felt tears prick her eyes. Nathan. I know it's not fair to put that kind of pressure on you and Emma. I know you're still grieving James, and I know I have no right to ask you to take a chance on someone like me. But I can't pretend anymore that this is just about work or charity or anything else. I'm falling in love with you, Lydia. I'm falling in love with both of you. The words hung in the air between them, raw and honest and terrifying. Lydia looked at this man who had just bared his soul to her, and she saw past the expensive suit and the successful businessman to the scared little boy who had learned not to trust anyone. I'm scared too, she said quietly. I'm scared because I never thought I could love anyone the way I loved James. I'm scared because Emma is already attached to you, and if this doesn't work out, it will break her heart. I'm scared because you're right, I am still grieving, and I don't know if I'm ready for this. Nathan's face fell, but Lydia wasn't finished. But I'm also scared of missing this chance. I'm scared of letting fear keep me from something that could be beautiful. Because you're right about something else, I am falling in love with you too. Nathan's eyes widened. You are. How could I not? You took us into your home when Emma was sick. You listen to her stories like they're the most important things in the world. You make her laugh and you make her feel safe. And you make me feel things I thought I'd never feel again. What kind of things? Hope. Joy. The possibility that maybe life has more good things in store for us. The feeling that maybe Emma and I don't have to face the world alone anymore. Nathan brought her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles gently. You don't. Whatever happens between us, you and Emma will never be alone again. I promise you that. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to try this. I want to see if a scared former foster kid and a grieving widow can figure out how to build something beautiful together. I want to see if we can be the family Emma believes we can be. Lydia looked into Nathan's eyes and saw love there, uncertain and scared, but real. She thought about Emma, sleeping peacefully at home with the babysitter, dreaming of the day her mother would be happy again. She thought about James, and how he had always told her that love was worth any risk. Okay, she said. Let's try. Nathan's smile was like sunrise after a long, dark night. Really? Really? But I have conditions. Name them. We take this slow. Emma comes first, always. And if at any point this starts to hurt her, we stop. Agreed. Anything else? You have to promise me that you won't run when things get difficult. Because they will get difficult. I have baggage, you have baggage, and we're both scared of getting hurt again. I promise, Nathan said solemnly. No running. We face whatever comes together. As they walked back to Nathan's car after dinner, Lydia felt something she hadn't experienced in months: excitement about the future. Maybe Emma had been right from the beginning. Maybe sometimes the best things in life came from being brave enough to ask for help. Nathan, she said as he opened her car door. Yes. Thank you for being brave enough to let us in. Thank you for being brave enough to stay. As they drove through the quiet city streets toward home, Lydia realized that for the first time since James died, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 2 months into their relationship, Lydia discovered that falling in love with Nathan Cross was like watching a flower bloom in slow motion. Each day brought small revelations: the way he hummed under his breath when he was concentrating, how he always saved the last bite of dessert for Emma, the gentle way he touched Lydia's hand when he thought no one was looking. Emma, of course, was delighted with the developments. She had appointed herself as their official relationship coordinator, planning family outings and offering unsolicited advice about romance. Mr. Nathan, she said one Saturday morning as they sat in Nathan's kitchen eating pancakes, you should hold my mommy's hand more. Ladies like that. Nathan nearly choked on his coffee. Is that so? Absolutely. And you should bring her flowers sometimes. Not fancy ones, just pretty ones that smell good. Emma, Lydia said, feeling her cheeks warm. "Mr. Nathan doesn't need dating advice from an 8-year-old. Actually," Nathan said, his eyes twinkling, "I think Emma knows more about romance than most adults." Emma beamed with pride. "I learned from watching movies. The nice men always bring flowers and say nice things and make the ladies smile." "Well then," Nathan said, standing up from the table, "I'd better go find some flowers." He returned an hour later with a bouquet of sunflowers, bright, cheerful, and completely unexpected. Emma clapped her hands in delight, but it was the look in Nathan's eyes as he handed them to Lydia that made her heart skip. "They reminded me of you," he said softly. "Beautiful and strong and full of light." These were the moments that scared Lydia the most, when Nathan said something so perfectly romantic that she forgot all her reasons for being careful. She was falling for him faster than she had planned, deeper than felt safe. That evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Lydia and Nathan sat on his back porch watching the stars. The summer air was warm and sweet, filled with the scent of jasmine from the garden. "Can I ask you something?" Lydia said, curled up next to Nathan on the porch swing. "Always. Do you ever feel guilty about being happy?" Nathan was quiet for a moment. "What do you mean?" "I mean, James has only been gone for 10 months. Sometimes I feel like I'm betraying his memory by falling in love with someone else." Nathan's arm tightened around her. "Do you think James would want you to be alone forever?" "No. He'd want me to be happy. He'd want Emma to have a father figure. But knowing that doesn't make the guilt go away." "I understand. I feel guilty too, sometimes." "About what?" "About how happy you and Emma make me. I spent so many years convinced I didn't deserve love, didn't deserve a family. Now I have both, and sometimes I wake up afraid it's all going to disappear." Lydia turned to look at him. "It's not going to disappear. We're not going anywhere." "How can you be sure?" "Because I choose to be here. Every day, I choose you and this and us. That's what love is, Nathan. It's not just a feeling, it's a choice you make over and over again." Nathan kissed her then, soft and sweet under the starlight, and Lydia felt something settle into place in her chest. This was right. They were right. "I love you," he whispered against her lips. "I love you too," she whispered back, and the words felt like coming home. The next few weeks passed in a blur of happiness. Nathan began spending more time at Lydia's apartment, helping Emma with her homework and cooking dinner while Lydia caught up on laundry. Lydia started leaving small things at Nathan's house: a toothbrush, a change of clothes, a book on his nightstand. They were building something together, something that felt solid and real. Emma was thriving in the warmth of their growing family. Her grades improved, she made new friends at school, and she started talking about the future with excitement instead of fear. "When you and Mr. Nathan get married," she said one evening, "can I be the flower girl?" Lydia nearly dropped the plate she was washing. "Emma, we're not." "You're going to get married," Emma said with absolute certainty. "I can tell. You look at each other the same way Mommy and Daddy used to look at each other." Later, when Emma was asleep, Lydia found herself thinking about her daughter's words. She and Nathan hadn't talked about marriage, hadn't made any long-term plans. They were taking things day by day, enjoying what they had without putting pressure on what it might become. But lying in bed that night, Lydia allowed herself to imagine it: a wedding with Emma as the flower girl, a future where the three of them were officially a family. The image didn't scare her the way she thought it would. Instead, it filled her with warmth and hope. The next morning at work, Nathan seemed distracted. He kept checking his phone and glancing at his watch, as if he was waiting for something. "Is everything okay?" Lydia asked during their lunch break. "Actually, there's something I need to tell you," Nathan said, his expression serious. "I got a call this morning. From a lawyer." Lydia's heart skipped. "What kind of lawyer?" "The kind that handles debt collection. Apparently, there are still some of James's medical bills that haven't been paid. The hospital is threatening to garnish your wages. The happiness Lydia had been feeling for weeks crumbled. She had thought that nightmare was behind them, that Nathan's job had given them enough financial stability to handle the remaining debts. How much, she asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. $47,000. Lydia felt like she couldn't breathe. That's impossible. We paid everything we could. The insurance doesn't always cover everything, especially for emergency procedures. The lawyer says they've been trying to reach you for months. I never got any calls. I never got any letters. They were probably sent to your old address, before you moved to the apartment. Lydia buried her face in her hands. $47,000 might as well have been $1 million. Even with her new salary, there was no way she could pay that kind of money. What am I going to do? She whispered. We're going to handle it, Nathan said firmly. Together. Nathan, you can't, I can, and I will. I'll pay the debt. Consider it settled. Lydia looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. I can't let you do that. It's too much money. It's not about the money, Lydia. It's about protecting our family. Our family. Nathan took her hands in his. That's what we are, isn't it? You, me, and Emma. We're a family. And families take care of each other. But Nathan, no buts. This debt has been hanging over your head for months, keeping you up at night, making you worry about the future. I won't let it destroy what we're building together. Lydia felt fresh tears start to fall. Why would you do that for me? Because I love you. Because Emma needs stability and security. Because you've both given me something I never thought I'd have a reason to use my money for something that actually matters. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. You just need to let me love you. Both of you. Let me be the man Emma thinks I am. As Nathan held her while she cried tears of relief and gratitude, Lydia realized that this was what real love looked like. It wasn't just flowers and romantic dinners and sweet words. It was showing up when things got difficult. It was solving problems together. It was choosing to be a family even when it was scary and complicated. I love you, she whispered against his chest. I love you too, he said, kissing the top of her head. Forever. But as the afternoon wore on, Lydia couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Nathan was being too generous, too perfect. Men like him didn't just pay off $47,000 in debt without expecting something in return. What did Nathan Cross really want from her? And what would happen when he decided their family wasn't worth the price he had paid for it? The call came on a Tuesday morning while Lydia was organizing Nathan's schedule for the week. His personal cell phone rang, and she saw his entire body tense when he looked at the caller ID. I need to take this, he said, his voice suddenly cold and distant. It's important. Lydia nodded and went back to her computer, but she couldn't help noticing how Nathan's voice changed as he spoke. Gone was the warm, gentle man she had fallen in love with. In his place was the ruthless businessman she had first met months ago. I don't care what it costs, she heard him say. Handle it. Now. When he hung up, Nathan's face was pale and his jaw was set in a hard line. Is everything okay? Lydia asked. It's fine, Nathan said, but his voice was clipped and dismissive. Just business. But it wasn't fine. Over the next few days, Nathan became increasingly distant. He worked late, cancelled their dinner plans, and barely spoke during the few moments they were together. When Emma asked him to help with her math homework, he claimed to be too busy. Lydia tried to give him space, assuming it was work stress. Nathan's company was in the middle of a major acquisition, and she knew the pressure was intense. But when a week passed with no explanation and no return to normalcy, she began to worry. The truth came out on Friday evening when Lydia arrived at Nathan's house to find him in his study, surrounded by legal documents and looking haggard. "Nathan, what's going on?" she demanded, closing the door behind her. "You've been acting like a stranger for a week. Emma keeps asking why you don't want to see her anymore." Nathan looked up from his papers, and Lydia saw something that made her heart sink fear. "There's a problem," he said quietly. "A big one." "What kind of problem?" Nathan ran his hands through his hair, a gesture Lydia had learned meant he was deeply stressed. "Do you remember when I told you about growing up in foster care?" "Of course. What I didn't tell you is that my mother didn't just abandon me because of drugs. She abandoned me because she was in debt to some very dangerous people." Lydia felt cold dread settle in her stomach. "What kind of people?" "The kind who don't forget and don't forgive. The kind who've been looking for her for over 20 years. But what does that have to do with you? You were just a child." Nathan's laugh was bitter. "Blood is blood, according to them. When they couldn't find her, they decided her son would do just as well." "Are you saying?" "I'm saying they found me. The phone call on Tuesday was from my head of security. Someone's been asking questions about my routine, my home address, my personal life." Lydia sank into a chair, her legs suddenly weak. "Are you in danger?" "I can handle myself. I've been dealing with this threat for years. It's part of why I kept everyone at arm's length. But now..." Nathan's voice broke. "Now I have you and Emma to worry about." "What are you saying?" Nathan stood up and walked to the window, his back rigid with tension. "I'm saying I made a mistake. I should never have gotten involved with you and Emma. I should never have let myself believe I could have a normal life." "Nathan, no. We can figure this out together." "There is no together." Nathan spun around, his eyes blazing with pain and fear. "Don't you understand? These people will hurt anyone close to me to get what they want. They'll hurt you. They'll hurt Emma." Lydia felt tears start to fall. "So what are you saying? You want to break up?" "I'm saying I want you and Emma to be safe. And the only way to ensure that is for you to stay away from me. That's not your choice to make." "Yes, it is. I won't let my past destroy the two most important people in my life." "So you're just going to run? You're going to abandon us?" Nathan flinched as if she had hit him. "I'm protecting you." "You're protecting yourself," Lydia said, anger flaring through her tears. "You're doing exactly what you always do when things get difficult. You're putting up walls and pushing people away." "This is different." "No, it's not. You're scared, so you're running. Just like you did with Victoria, just like you've done your whole life." Nathan's face went cold. "This conversation is over. I'll arrange for you to keep your job, but I think it's best if you report to someone else from now on." "You're firing me?" "I'm protecting you. And Emma." Lydia stood up, her whole body shaking with hurt and fury. "Don't you dare use Emma as an excuse for your cowardice. She loves you, Nathan. She thinks you're going to be her father. I can't be her father. I can't be anything to either of you. Because you won't let yourself. Because you'd rather be alone and miserable than risk fighting for the people you love." Nathan turned back to the window, his shoulders set in a rigid line. "Please leave." "Fine," Lydia said, her voice breaking. "But you should know that when Emma asks me why you don't want to see her anymore, I'm going to tell her the truth. I'm going to tell her that you chose to be scared instead of choosing to be brave." As Lydia walked out of Nathan's house, she felt like her heart was being ripped from her chest. How had everything gone so wrong so quickly? How had the man who promised never to run been the first one out the door when things got difficult? Emma was waiting for her when she got home, homework spread across the kitchen table. "Where's Mr. Nathan?" she asked, looking toward the door expectantly. Lydia knelt down beside her daughter's chair, trying to find the words that would break both their hearts. "Baby, Mr. Nathan isn't going to be coming around anymore." Emma's pencil froze mid-letter. Why not? Because he has some problems he needs to solve, and he thinks it's better if we're not involved. But we could help him, Emma said, her voice getting smaller. Families help each other with problems. I know, sweetheart. I know. Did he stop loving us? The question hit Lydia like a physical blow. No, baby. He still loves us. He's just scared. Scared of what? Scared of some bad people who might want to hurt us if we stay close to him. Emma was quiet for a long moment, processing this information with the seriousness of a child who had already lost one father. So he left us to keep us safe. That's what he believes, yes. But that's stupid, Emma said, tears starting to form in her eyes. We're supposed to face scary things together. That's what families do. Lydia pulled Emma into her arms, both of them crying now. I know, baby. I know. Are you going to go get him back? I don't know how, sweetheart. He doesn't want to listen to me. Emma pulled back and looked at her mother with determined eyes. Then we have to make him listen. We have to show him that love is stronger than being scared. Looking at her daughter's fierce, hopeful face, Lydia realized that Emma was right. Nathan was worth fighting for. Their family was worth fighting for. The question was, how do you save someone who's determined to save themselves by destroying everything they love? 3 days passed in a blur of heartbreak and determination. Lydia barely slept, barely ate, and spent most of her time trying to figure out how to reach Nathan. She called his office, but he wouldn't take her calls. She went to his house, but he wouldn't answer the door. She even tried to reach him through his assistant, but got only polite deflections. Emma, meanwhile, had retreated into herself. She did her homework without being asked, ate her meals in silence, and stopped talking about the future. It was like watching her daughter disappear back into the scared, quiet child she had been right after James died. On Thursday evening, as Lydia was tucking Emma into bed, her daughter finally spoke. Mommy, are we going to be okay? The question was so small, so vulnerable, that Lydia's heart cracked all over again. Yes, baby. We're going to be okay. Even without Mr. Nathan. Lydia smoothed Emma's hair away from her face. We were okay before we met Mr. Nathan, and we'll be okay now. We have each other, and that's enough. But even as she said the words, Lydia knew they weren't entirely true. Yes, she and Emma would survive. They had survived worse things. But they wouldn't be the same. Nathan had given them something precious, the feeling of being a complete family, and his absence left a hole that felt impossible to fill. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then, I don't think Mr. Nathan is okay without us. What do you mean? I mean, he looked so sad and lonely before we came into his life. If he goes back to being alone, he'll be sad and lonely again. Sweetheart, sometimes adults make choices that don't make sense, even when they think they're doing the right thing. But we could help him not be scared anymore. We could show him that we're stronger together. Lydia kissed Emma's forehead. Get some sleep, baby. Things will look better in the morning. But when morning came, things looked worse, not better. Lydia's phone rang at 6 a.m., jarring her awake. The caller ID showed Nathan's assistant. Mrs. Williams. This is Sarah from Mr. Cross's office. I'm calling because I'm worried about him. Lydia sat up, instantly alert. What do you mean? He's been here for 3 days straight. He's barely eating, barely sleeping. He's dismissed his entire security team and he's refusing to see anyone. I've never seen him like this. Why are you calling me? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Because before this week, he was happier than I'd ever seen him. He talked about you and Emma constantly. He smiled, Mrs. Williams. I've worked for him for 5 years, and I never saw him really smile until you came along. Lydia's heart ached. I don't know what to do. He won't talk to me. Maybe you don't need to talk to him. Maybe you need to show him something. What do you mean? The board meeting is this afternoon at 2 p.m. All the major shareholders will be there, plus the press. If someone were to interrupt that meeting with something important, it would be very difficult for Mr. Cross to ignore. Lydia understood immediately. You're suggesting I crash his board meeting? I'm suggesting that sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures. And Mrs. Williams? Bring Emma. If anyone can get through to him, it's her. After Sarah hung up, Lydia sat in bed thinking. Crashing Nathan's board meeting was risky, potentially embarrassing, and definitely not the kind of thing a respectable single mother should do. But then she thought about Emma's words. We're supposed to face scary things together. That's what families do. Maybe it was time to stop being respectable and start being brave. That afternoon, Lydia and Emma stood outside the towering glass building that housed Cross Industries. Emma wore her best dress and carried a handmade card. Lydia wore the black dress from their first date and a determination that burned in her chest like fire. Are you ready, baby? She asked. Emma nodded solemnly. I made him a card. It says, families don't give up on each other. That's perfect, sweetheart. They rode the elevator to the 50th floor, Lydia's heart pounding with each passing floor. Sarah was waiting for them at the reception desk. Conference room B, she said quietly. Down the hall, third door on the left. They started 10 minutes ago. Thank you, Lydia said. Good luck. And Mrs. Williams? Whatever he says, don't give up. He needs you more than he knows. Lydia and Emma walked down the hallway hand in hand. Through the glass walls of conference room B, Lydia could see Nathan at the head of a long table, surrounded by men in expensive suits. He looked tired and thin, as if he hadn't been eating or sleeping. Okay, Emma, Lydia whispered. Remember what we practiced. Emma nodded and knocked on the conference room door. All conversation stopped as every head turned toward them. Nathan's face went white when he saw them. Lydia, what are you, Mr. Nathan? Emma said, walking into the room with her chin held high. We need to talk to you. Emma, this isn't the time. Yes, it is, Emma said firmly. It's exactly the time. You've been hiding from us for 4 days, and that's not what families do. Murmurs rippled around the table. Nathan looked mortified. Gentlemen, he said, standing up, if we could have a brief recess. No, Emma said, louder now. I have something to say, and everyone should hear it. She walked to the front of the room and climbed onto a chair so she could see over the table. Lydia's heart swelled with pride at her daughter's courage. My name is Emma Williams, she announced to the room full of powerful businessmen. And Mr. Nathan is supposed to be my family, but he's being silly. Nathan sank back into his chair, covering his face with his hands. You see, Emma continued, Mr. Nathan thinks that if bad people want to hurt him, he should send away everyone he loves to keep them safe. But that's backwards. Emma, Nathan started. I'm not finished, Emma said sternly. When bad people want to hurt you, you don't send your family away. You keep your family close because families protect each other. That's what my daddy taught me before he died. The room was completely silent now. Even the men in suits were listening with rapt attention. Mr. Nathan has been sad and lonely for a really long time, Emma said. But when me and Mommy came into his life, he stopped being sad. He started smiling and laughing and being happy. And we were happy too, because we finally had a complete family again. Tears were streaming down Lydia's face now. Nathan was staring at Emma with an expression of wonder and pain. But then some mean people scared him, and instead of letting us help him not be scared, he decided to be scared all by himself. And that's just silly, because being scared by yourself is much worse than being scared with people who love you. Emma pulled out her handmade card and walked over to Nathan. "This is for you," she said, placing it in his hands. "It says, families don't give up on each other. And we're not going to give up on you, even if you try to give up on us." Nathan opened the card with shaking hands. Inside, in Emma's careful 8-year-old handwriting, it said, "Dear Mr. Nathan, I love you and Mommy loves you and we want to be your family forever. Please don't be scared anymore. Love, Emma. P.S. I drew us a picture of our family with you in it because that's where you belong." The picture showed 3 stick figures holding hands in front of a house, all of them smiling. Nathan stared at it for a long moment, then looked up at Emma with tears in his eyes. "Emma," he whispered, "the bad people will have to go through me and Mommy to get to you," Emma said fiercely. "And we're pretty tough. Right, Mommy?" Lydia stepped forward, her own courage bolstered by her daughter's bravery. "She's right, Nathan. We don't want to be protected from your problems. We want to face them with you. That's what love means, choosing to be together even when it's scary." Nathan stood up slowly, still holding Emma's card. "You don't understand the danger, we understand that you're worth any danger," Lydia said. "We understand that a life without you isn't the life we want. We understand that running away isn't protecting us, it's destroying us. But if something happened to you, then something would happen to us," Emma said simply. "But at least we'd be together. And maybe nothing bad will happen at all. Maybe the bad people will see that you have a family who loves you and they'll leave you alone." Nathan looked around the conference room, suddenly seeming to remember where they were. The board members and shareholders were watching this family drama unfold with fascination. "Perhaps," said an elderly man at the other end of the table, "we should hear what the young lady has to say about family loyalty. It seems quite relevant to business, actually." Nathan looked at him in confusion. "Mr. Patterson?" "I've been in business for 50 years, son," the man said kindly. "And I've learned that a man who inspires that kind of loyalty from his family is a man worth investing in. Your little girl just gave the most compelling argument for trust and partnership I've ever heard." Other voices around the table began to murmur agreement. Nathan looked stunned. Emma tugged on his sleeve. "Mr. Nathan, are you going to come home with us now?" Nathan looked down at her, then at Lydia, then at the card in his hands. "Emma, I'm scared." "That's okay," Emma said, taking his hand. "We're all scared sometimes. But we don't have to be scared alone anymore." Nathan knelt down to Emma's level, bringing them eye to eye. "Are you sure you want someone like me in your family? Someone with dangerous enemies and a complicated past?" "I'm sure," Emma said without hesitation. "You're the best man I know except for my daddy, and he would have liked you very much." Nathan's composure finally cracked. He pulled Emma into a fierce hug, tears streaming down his face. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you both so much." "We love you too," Emma said, patting his back comfortingly. "Now can we go home? I want to show you the picture I drew of our family dog." "We don't have a dog," Nathan said, laughing through his tears. "We will," Emma said confidently. "Every family needs a dog." As Nathan stood up, still holding Emma, he looked at Lydia with an expression of gratitude and love so intense it took her breath away. "Can you forgive me?" he asked. "For being a coward? For trying to run instead of fight?" "There's nothing to forgive," Lydia said, stepping closer. "You were scared. But you're here now, and that's what matters." "I promise I'll never run again," Nathan said. "Whatever comes, we face it together." Together, Lydia agreed, and when Nathan kissed her, the conference room erupted in applause. Later, as they walked out of the building hand in hand, all 3 of them, Emma looked up at Nathan with a satisfied expression. "See," she said. "I told you families don't give up on each other." "You were right," Nathan said. "About everything." "I know," Emma said matter-of-factly. "I'm very smart." Now can we get ice cream to celebrate our family being complete again? Nathan really laughed for the first time in days. Absolutely. Ice cream for everyone. As they walked toward their car, Nathan pulled Lydia aside. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. About the dangerous people. I've hired new security, and I've been working with the police. We're going to handle this the right way, together. Good, Lydia said. But Nathan? Even if we can't handle it, even if things get difficult, I want you to remember what Emma said. We're stronger together than we are apart. I'll remember, Nathan promised. I'll never forget again. Looking at Emma skipping ahead of them, humming a happy tune, Lydia realized that sometimes the greatest courage came from the smallest people. Emma had saved their family with nothing but love and determination. Now all that was left was to make it official. 6 months later, Lydia stood in front of the full-length mirror in the bridal suite of Nathan's grandmother's church, barely recognizing the radiant woman staring back at her. Her wedding dress was simple but elegant ivory silk with delicate lace sleeves that Emma had insisted looked like a princess dress. Mommy, you look beautiful, Emma said from her position on the window seat, where she was carefully arranging her flower girl dress. The pale pink gown made her look like a little angel, complete with a crown of baby's breath in her dark curls. Thank you, baby, Lydia said, smoothing her hands over the silk. Are you ready for this? I've been ready forever, Emma said with a grin. I'm the one who asked Mr. Nathan to marry you, remember? Lydia laughed, thinking back to that day 9 months ago when Emma had burst into Nathan's office and changed their lives forever. So much had happened since then. The threats from Nathan's past had been neutralized with the help of federal authorities. Emma had officially started calling Nathan, Daddy Nathan, and they had all moved into Nathan's grandmother's house, which was now filled with laughter and love. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she called. Nathan's assistant Sarah peeked her head around the door. Mrs. Williams? There's someone here to see you. Behind Sarah stood a tall, elderly man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Lydia recognized him immediately as Mr. Patterson, the board member who had supported them during their dramatic confrontation in the conference room. Mr. Patterson, Lydia said, surprised. What are you doing here? I hope you don't mind the intrusion, he said, stepping into the room. But Nathan asked me to give you something. He held out a small, wrapped box. He said it belonged to his grandmother, and he wanted you to have it for today. Lydia opened the box with trembling fingers and gasped. Inside was a delicate pearl necklace, clearly vintage and beautifully maintained. His grandmother wore this on her wedding day, Mr. Patterson explained. Nathan said she would have loved you and Emma, and he wanted her to be part of your special day. Tears pricked Lydia's eyes as Emma helped her fasten the necklace. It's perfect, she whispered. There's more, Mr. Patterson said with a twinkle in his eye. Nathan wanted me to tell you that he's been working on something special for Emma. A surprise adoption proceeding that will make her officially his daughter, if she wants that. Emma's eyes went wide. Really? I could be Emma Cross. If that's what you want, sweetheart, Lydia said, her heart overflowing. Yes. Emma practically shouted. Yes, yes, yes. I want to be Daddy Nathan's real daughter. Well then, Mr. Patterson said with a chuckle, I'd say this is shaping up to be quite a perfect day. 20 minutes later, Lydia stood at the back of the church, her arm linked through Emma's. They had decided to walk down the aisle together, Emma scattering rose petals while Lydia carried a bouquet of sunflowers, the same flowers Nathan had brought her on their first real day as a family. The church was filled with their friends and colleagues, but all Lydia could see was Nathan standing at the altar. He looked devastatingly handsome in his black tuxedo, but it was the expression on his face that took her breath away. He was looking at her and Emma like they were the most precious things in his world. As the music started and they began their walk down the aisle, Lydia felt a sense of completion wash over her. This wasn't just a wedding, it was the official beginning of the family they had all chosen to create together. Emma took her job as flower girl very seriously, carefully scattering petals with scientific precision. When they reached the altar, she gave Nathan a huge hug before taking her place beside them. "We're really doing this," Nathan whispered to Lydia as they joined hands. "We really are," she whispered back. The ceremony was beautiful but simple. They had written their own vows, wanting to speak from their hearts about the journey that had brought them together. Nathan went first, his voice strong and clear. "Lydia, 9 months ago, a brave little girl walked into my office and asked me to marry her mother. At the time, I thought she was asking for the impossible. I was wrong. She wasn't asking for the impossible, she was offering me a miracle. You and Emma have given me something I never thought I deserved, a family. You've taught me that love isn't about protecting yourself from pain, it's about choosing to be vulnerable because the person you love is worth the risk. I promise to love you and Emma with my whole heart, to face whatever challenges come our way together, and to never forget that the greatest success of my life isn't any business deal or financial achievement, it's becoming your husband and Emma's father." By the time Nathan finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the church, including Lydia's. When it was her turn, she looked out at the faces of their friends and family, then back at Nathan. "Nathan, when James died, I thought my story was over. I thought the best chapters of my life were behind me. Emma and I were just surviving, just trying to make it through each day. Then you came into our lives, and you reminded me that endings can also be beginnings. You showed me that it's possible to love again, to trust again, to hope again. You gave Emma the father she was praying for, and you gave me the partner I thought I'd lost forever. I promise to love you through good times and difficult times, to support your dreams while building new ones together, and to never forget that the greatest gift you've given me isn't financial security or professional opportunities, it's showing me that our family's story isn't ending, it's just beginning." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Nathan's kiss was soft and sweet, full of promise for their future together. But the moment that brought down the house was when Emma threw her arms around both of them, creating their first official family hug as the Cross family. At the reception, held in the garden behind the church, Emma gave a speech that had everyone laughing and crying at the same time. "Hi everyone," she said, standing on a chair so everyone could see her. "I'm Emma, and I'm 8 years old, and I just wanted to say thank you for coming to my mommy and daddy's wedding." The crowd cheered, and Emma beamed with pride. "A lot of people think that kids can't understand grown-up things like love and marriage," she continued. "But I think kids understand love better than anyone, because we're not scared of it yet. When I saw that my mommy was sad and lonely, I knew exactly what to do. I had to find her someone who would love her the way she deserved to be loved." She looked at Nathan with pure adoration. "And when I met Daddy Nathan, I knew he was the right one, even though he was scared too. Sometimes grown-ups forget that love is supposed to make you brave, not scared. But that's okay, because kids can remind them." Emma raised her cup of apple juice in a toast. "So here's to my mommy and daddy, who learned how to be brave enough to love each other. And here's to all the other grown-ups who might be scared of love, don't be scared. Love is the best thing in the whole world, and families make everything better." As the crowd erupted in applause, Nathan lifted Emma into his arms and spun her around, both of them laughing with pure joy. Later that evening, as the last guests were leaving, the three of them sat on the front steps of the church, Emma between her parents, all of them still in their wedding finery. "So," Nathan said, "how does it feel to be Mrs. Cross?" "Perfect," Lydia said, leaning against his shoulder. "How does it feel to be a husband and father?" "Like everything I never knew I wanted," Nathan said. "Like coming home." Emma yawned and snuggled closer to Nathan. "Daddy Nathan?" "Yes, sweetheart. Are we going to live happily ever after now?" Nathan looked at Lydia over Emma's head, his eyes soft with love and contentment. "I think we already are, baby girl," he said. "I think we already are." As they sat there in the gentle evening light, watching the sun set on their wedding day and rise on their new life together, Lydia realized that Emma had been right about everything from the very beginning. Sometimes the most important questions required the simplest answers. Sometimes the greatest courage came from the smallest people. And sometimes, when you were brave enough to ask for help, the universe responded with exactly what you needed. Their story hadn't ended with loss and struggle. It had transformed into something beautiful, a love story that began with a desperate plea from a little girl and blossomed into a family built on courage, hope, and the unshakable belief that love really could conquer all. 1 year later, as Lydia tucked Emma into bed in their beautiful home, her daughter looked up at her with sparkling eyes. "Mommy, guess what?" "What, baby?" "I think we should get Daddy Nathan a little brother or sister to love too." Lydia's eyes widened. "Emma Williams Cross, what are you suggesting?" Emma giggled. "I'm suggesting that our family isn't finished growing yet. And I'm very good at knowing what people need, remember?" Looking at her daughter's mischievous smile, Lydia had a feeling that Emma might be right again. After all, she had been right about everything else. Their happily ever after was just beginning,